in remembrance of CJ. Drove the hearse Cadillac. A crowd of people gathered round, all dressed in black. And as they removed his body from the car, such pain she never knew has filled her heart. Why, oh why, I heard his mother cry. But oh Lord, it was the beginning of her and justice for CJ. In a mother's love, you will find everything's alright. To a mother's love, you are bound. You can rest on sacred ground. You are free to dream, because she sees what you can be. Did you know that mental health is a family affair? It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Well, one child grows up to be somebody that just loves to learn, and another child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn. Mama loves the both of them. You see, it's in the blood. Both kids are good to mom. Blood's thicker than the mud. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Oh, a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Nobody wants to blow. Nobody wants to be left out. You can't leave because your heart is there. But you can't stay because you've been somewhere else. You can't cry because you look broke down. But you're crying anyway because you're all broke down. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Well, it's a family affair. Hey, hey. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Greetings and welcome to the Tiger's Den. Do y'all really believe that song, The Greatest Love of All? You know, that was a very well written song, and it means so much, especially since we all say that the children are our future, and we want something better for them. How do we give them better? We be better parents. We be better adults. We be better people. That's how we do it. And then as we get better, then we teach them what we've come to know. I feel pretty good this evening. And I thought we'd just take it back to where we belong. We had such a beautiful conversation the other day. And we actually had good interaction with each other and engagement. And that's something that I love more than anything. When we're engaging about something that means something to all of us. I just like to say welcome to the Tiger's Den, everybody, Trinity Soldier, Crystal Williams, Madria, Phyllis, Cache, and everybody else, Amelia. I just like to say welcome. We're going to go back and talk about toxic parents. I think it's very, I would say, therapeutic. Some of us just don't have the money, we don't have the time, and we don't have the courage to face some of the things that we need to face in order to help our children or any child to be a better child. Some things happen to us and we don't even understand why we make the decisions that we make. A lot of people say they don't like the beeping, but yet they seem to get all the attention, and that's okay. We're going to just keep moving for the purpose in which I came to YouTube. I was inspired by one, but I had so much in me to give. And I will not let anyone railroad me into getting off track doing what I came here to do. And that is to help uplift fallen humanity. Whoever you may be in whatever state you're in, you may be one of the richest people I know. You may be one of the brokest. Whatever your situation is, as we know, money doesn't make us, we make money. And what we do with it is another story. Because a lot of us misappropriate it or we abuse it, and we don't live within the. And it appears that I'm getting flagged right off the bat. So people can continue to flag. I will continue to do what I do, and they will continue to do what they do until it stops. So let's get into business and let's lift each other up. Talk about something that matters. I stopped on the third chapter. The third chapter is very interesting. It is, why can't they let me live my own life? And these are the parents that are the controllers. And so I'm going to go off camera and read to you guys for a minute, and then I'll come back. And please feel free to converse, or if you have any questions or anything, I'll be perusing the chat, and I'll, address anybody that needs me to address something. But let's get engaged and have fun and forget about all the craziness that goes on in the metaverse and in the universe, because it's craziness everywhere. As we know, everybody is talking about the Alabama situation, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on that situation because we know that we all saw what happened, all of us that seen the video. And it was unfortunate that it happened, that we have people who believe, and it's all about status, according to their status, that they didn't have to move the boat. It didn't matter that they were causing problems on the dock. And what's fascinating about the dock is the same dock that they used to bring men and women and children to take them, to sell them into slavery. We believe that we've gotten away from that part of life, but it seems the more things change, the more things seems the same. It's a mindset, and we have to change our mindset. So if we continue to beef on YouTube, would that not be the same as being put out on the dock and then jumped and then sold? Yeah, I think so. So we don't have to be reminded of that. What we need to do is start dealing with our own personal demons, if you will. That's what some people call them. It could be insecurities, whatever you call it, you name it, because it belongs to you. But sometimes we know that we're good people and we do great things for people, and bad things happen to us. And we just can't understand why this happens over and over. No matter what situation we find ourselves in, it always comes down to that ugly end. Sometimes it's who we become based on how we started. Doesn't necessarily have to be your parents. All parents aren't toxic, but most of them are human, as far as we know. So if you have humans as your parents, then you have human issues. And they come from parents that had human issues. And a lot of parents don't know how to express love. And they certainly don't know how to have conversations. I see that's true of us as adults. A lot of people don't have real conversations. They have shouting matches and emotionalism, and they call that conversation. But I think if we would learn one thing, and that is that we can only be who we are. We can't be anybody else. And so we can be the best us that we can be. And in order to do that, then it takes being able to communicate with people. Hi, I'm just being me. It takes us being able to listen. A lot of us say that we hear you, but we're really not listening to you. So do we really hear you? A lot of us listen to answer. Some people are very good at listening, and they can really hold a conversation. And I used to think that I was one of those people, but I'm not. I'm not a great listener. If you say something that just sounds way out the way to me from the jump, I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say. And so I've gotten a little bit better, but I can be better. I can do more. And so it's those kind of things that when we're teaching children discipline, self-discipline, if we teach them to discipline themselves, that's less that we have to discipline, because they'll be aware of when they're doing things against whatever it is we set for them. A lot of us as a people don't have boundaries. And when you don't have boundaries, you tend to cross over into other people's lane in the guise of you're in your own lane and you're just doing what you do in your family, and that's just the way it is. But even with family, we got to learn how to love on one another. Those are the people we tend to treat the worst, the ones that we say we love the most. And I don't know why that is. Perhaps it has something to do with our beginning as far as being sold off and not knowing each other. But some of it is just who we are as individuals. And so, what I like to do is just tap into this toxic parents. And if you would just listen with me, take notes if you like. And if you have, like I said, any questions or anything we can discuss, this book was written by Dr. Susan Forward, and she is a renowned um, psychologist, and this is a very, very, very good book. And I started it a few weeks back, and then got derailed for a moment. But time is too far spent. It's too many people dying, young and old, and I don't want to leave this world in the middle of a beef that's not mine. I have nothing to do with the craziness of other people's and their train of thoughts and how they handle their business. And they can say whatever they need to say. And if it gets them paid, then hey, everybody got to pay their bills some kind of way. But I'm going to do what's purposed in my heart to do. And the reason I came to YouTube was to offer something that nobody had before, seen, or heard, and that was me. And so I'm going to give you me and what I have to offer. And I thank everybody that's here. It's 18 of us that are here. And I hope everybody hit the like button if you enjoy this type of content. And I'm going to start with, why can't they let me live my own life? The controllers. I'm hoping the music is down low enough, but I'm going to just cut it down a little bit lower just in case, because I want you guys to be able to hear me. Let's listen in on an imaginary conversation between an adult child and one of his controlling parents. I can guarantee you this conversation would never take place. But if these two people were capable of honestly expressing their deeply hidden feelings, they might say the following. And I do want y'all to know that I am reading from this book under the Fair Use Act of US 17 Code 107, Limitations on Exclusive Rights. And we have the right to use, under the Copyright Act, the fair use of copyrighted material without permission is allowed when used for the following purposes: criticism, comment, news, reporting, scholarship, and research, parody, and let me see what this word is here, teaching, including making copies for the use in the classroom. So we can consider this, hey, so Alicia, we can consider this teaching, scholarship, research, comment, and criticism. All of the above. The adult child. Why do you act the way you do? Why is everything I do wrong? Why can't you treat me like an adult? What difference does it make to Dad if I don't become a doctor? What difference does it make to you who I married? When are you going to let me go? Why do you act as if every decision I make on my own is an attack on you? The controlling mother. I can't describe the pain I feel when you pull away from me. I need you to need me. I can't stand the thought of losing you. You're my whole life. I'm terrified that you're going to make some horrible mistake. It would rip me apart to see you get hurt. I'd rather die than feel like a failure as a mother. It's for your own good. That's one of the quotes that the parents tell you. And here goes the doctor. Control is not necessarily a dirty word. If a mother restrains her toddler instead of letting him wander into the street, we don't call her a controller. We call her prudent. She is exercising control that is in tune with reality, motivated by her child's need for protection and guidance. Appropriate control becomes over control when the mother restrains her child 10 years later, long after the child is perfectly capable to cross the street alone. Children are not encouraged to do, to try, to explore, to master, and to risk failure, often feel helpless and inadequate. Overcontrolled by anxious, fearful parents, these children often make anxious and fearful themselves. This makes it difficult for them to mature. When they develop through adolescence and adulthood, many of them never outgrow the need for ongoing parental guidance and control. As a result, their parents continue to invade, manipulate, and frequently dominate their lives. The fear of not being needed motivates many controlling parents to perpetuate this sense of powerlessness in their children. These parents have an unhealthy fear of the emptiness syndrome, the inevitable sense of loss that all parents experience when their children finally leave home. So much of a controlling parent's identity is tied up in the parental role that he or she feels betrayed and abandoned when the child becomes independent. What makes a controlling parent so insidious is that the domination usually comes in the guise of concern. Phrases such as, "This is for your own good," "I'm only doing this for you," and "only because I love you so much," all mean the same thing. I'm doing this because I'm so afraid of losing you, and I am willing to make you miserable. This goes under direct control. There is nothing fancy about direct control. It's overt, tangible, right out in the open. Do as I say, or I'll never speak to you again. Do as I say, or I'll cut your money off. If you don't do as I say, you'll no longer be a member of this family. If you go against my wishes, you'll give me a heart attack. There is nothing subtle about it. Direct control usually involves intimidation and is frequently humiliating. Your feelings and needs must be subordinated to those of your parents. You are dragged into a bottomless pit of ultimatums. Your opinion is worthless. Your needs and desires are irrelevant. The imbalance of power is tremendous. Michael, a charming, sweet-faced 36-year-old advertising executive, provides a good example of this. He came to see me because his 6-year marriage to a woman he deeply loved had become extremely shaky as a result of a tug of war between his wife and his parents. The real problems didn't start until I moved to California. I think my mother thought it was a temporary move. But when I told her I'd fallen in love and planned to get married, it hit her that I wanted to settle down here. That's when she really started turning on the pressure to bring me back home. I asked Michael to tell me about the pressure. The worst incident was about a year after the wedding. We were planning to go out to Boston for my folks' anniversary party when my wife came down with this horrible flu. She was really sick. I didn't want to just leave her, so I called my mother to cancel. Well, first off, she burst into tears. Then she tells me, "If you don't come for our anniversary to Boston." I got there the morning of the party, but right off the plane, they start in that I should stay the whole week. I didn't say yes or no. but I left the next morning. A day later, I get a call from my father. You're killing your mother. She was up all night crying. I'm afraid she's going to have a stroke. What the hell do they want me to do? Divorce my wife, come back to Boston, and move back into my old room? I want to say thank you for the Cash App, and I'll acknowledge it in a moment. Michael's parents could pull his strings from 3,000 miles away. I asked him if his parents had ever come around to accepting his wife. Michael became visibly flushed with anger. No way! Whenever they call, they never ask how she is. In fact, they don't even mention her. It's like they're trying to pretend she doesn't exist. I asked Michael if he ever confronted his parents about this, and he seemed embarrassed as he answered, I wish I had. Every time she'd get clobbered by my parents, I'd expect her to take it. When she'd complain, I'd ask her to be understanding. God, was I an idiot. My parents are slugging away at my wife, and I just keep letting them hurt her. Michael's crime was that he had become independent. In response, his parents had become desperate and lashed out with the tactics they knew best, withdrawing love and predicting catastrophe. Like most controlling parents, Michael's were incredibly self-centered. They felt threatened by Michael's happiness, instead of seeing it as a validation of their parenting skills. Michael's interests were insignificant to them. According to them, he hadn't moved to California for a career opportunity. He had moved to punish them. He hadn't married for love. He had married to spite them. His wife hadn't gotten sick because she contracted a virus. She had gotten sick to deprive them. Michael's parents were always forcing him to choose between themselves and his wife, and they made every choice an all or nothing decision. With directly controlling parents, there is no middle ground. If the adult child tries to gain some control over his own life, he pays the price in guilt, frustrated rage, and a deep sense of disloyalty. When Michael first came to me, he thought his marriage was the major problem. It didn't take him long to realize that his marriage was merely a victim of the struggle for control that had begun when he moved away from home. A child's marriage can be extremely threatening to controlling parents. They see the new spouse as a competitor for their child's devotion. This leads to horrendous battles between parents and spouse, with the adult child caught in a crossfire of divided loyalties. Some parents will attack the new relationship with criticism, sarcasm, and predictions of failure. Others, as in Michael's case, will refuse to accept the new partner or even ignore the spouse's very existence. And still others will directly persecute the new partner. It is not unusual for these tactics to create such upheaval that the marriage is undermined. The next part of this chapter is why do I sell myself out to my parents? But I'm going to take a moment and acknowledge and thank the donor for the Cash App.
Your face. You got to remove the excess water. Now she's coming
This
out.
is how you do it. Thank you. Why do I sell myself out to my parents? Money has always been the primary language of power, making it a logical tool for controlling parents. Many toxic parents use money to keep their children dependent. Kim came to see me with a variety of concerns. At 41, she was overweight, unhappy with her work, and divorced with two teenage children. She felt stuck in a rut. She wanted to lose weight, to take some risk in her career, and to find some direction in her life. She was convinced that her problems could all be solved if she could only find Mr. Right. As our session went along, it became clear that Kim believed she was nothing without a man to take care of her. I asked her where she had gotten this idea. Well, certainly not from my husband. It was more like I had to take care of him. I met him when I was right out of college. He was 27, still living with his parents, and really floundering about what he was going to do for a living. But he was sensitive and romantic, and I fell for him. My father totally disapproved, but I think he was secretly pleased that I picked someone who couldn't get it together. When I insisted on marrying him, my father told me he would support us for a while, and if came to worse, he'd give my husband a job in his company. Of course, this makes my father sound like a terrific guy, but it gave him an incredible hold over us. Even though I was married, I was still daddy's little girl. My father kept bailing us out financially, but in return for that, he got to tell us how to live our lives. I was playing house and raising babies, and yet Kim broke off in mid-sentence. And yet what? I asked. She looked down at the floor as she finished. And yet, I still needed Daddy to take care of me. I asked Kim if she could see the connection between her relationship with her father and her dependence on men to make her life okay. There's no question that my father was the most powerful person in my life. He was really adoring when I was little, but when I started to have a mind of my own, he couldn't handle it. He'd have these screaming fits if I dared to disagree with him. He'd call me terrible names. He was really loud and scary. When I was a teenager, he started using money to keep me in line. Sometimes he'd be incredibly generous, which made me feel really loved and safe. But other times he'd humiliate me by making me beg and cry for anything from movie money to school books. I was never sure what my crimes were. I just knew I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to please him. It was never the same 2 days in a row. He kept making it tougher. For Kim, trying to please her father was like running a race in which he was always moving the finish line. The harder she ran, the farther he moved it. She couldn't win. He used money for both reward and punishment, without logic or consistency. He was alternately generous and stingy with money, just as he was with love and affection. His mixed messages confused her. Her dependency became entangled with his approval. The confusion continued into Kim's adult life. I encouraged my husband to go to work for my father. What a mistake that was. Now he really had us under his thumb. Everything had to be done his way, from choosing an apartment to toilet training the kids. He made Jim's life a living hell at work, so Jim finally quit. My father saw this as another example of Jim's worthlessness. Even though Jim got another job, my father really lit into me about that and threatened to stop helping us. But then he did a complete about face for Christmas. He bought me a new car. When he handed me the keys, he said, "Don't you wish your husband was rich like me?" Kim's father used his financial power in very cruel and destructive ways. While appearing to be magnanimous, He used it to make himself even more indispensable in Kim's eyes and to continually diminish Kim's husband. In this way, he continued to control her long after she left the nest. Can't you do anything right? Next section. Many toxic parents control their adult children by treating them as if they were helpless and inadequate, even when this is drastically out of sync with reality. Martin, a thin, balding 43-year-old president of a small construction supply company, came to see me in genuine panic. He said, "I'm really scared. Something's happening to me. I'm having these fits of temper. It just gets out of control. I've always been a totally nonviolent person, but in the last few months, I'm screaming at my wife and kids, slamming doors. 3 weeks ago, I got so pissed off, I punched a hole in the wall. I'm really scared I'm going to hurt somebody." I complimented him on his courage and foresight to come in for therapy before the problem got out of hand. I asked whom he would have liked to hit when he punched the wall. He laughed bitterly. "That's easy, my old man. No matter how hard I try, he always makes me feel that whatever I'm doing is wrong. Would you believe he has the balls to put me down in front of my own employees?" When Martin saw that I looked puzzled, he explained, "My father took me into his business 18 years ago, and then he retired a couple of years later. So I've been running this business for 15 years, but every goddamn week, my father comes in and starts looking through the accounts. Then he bitches about how I'm handling them. He follows me out of my office screaming about how I'm screwing up his company. Right in front of my employees, he does it. The irony is, I've turned this business around. I've doubled our profits just in the last 3 years, but he won't leave me alone. Is this man ever going to be satisfied?" Martin was constantly having to jump through hoops to prove himself. He had real evidence of achievement, his profits, but that evidence paled beside his father's disapproval. I suggested to Martin that his father might feel threatened by Martin's success. His father's ego seemed to be tied up with having built this business, but now his achievement was being overshadowed by his son. I asked Martin if during these episodes he was in touch with any feelings other than his understandable anger. "You bet I am. I'm really ashamed to tell you this, but every time he walks into the office, I feel like I'm 2 years old. I can't even answer questions right. I start to stammer, apologize, and feel scared. He looks so powerful, even though I'm as big as he is physically, that I feel about half his size. He has the cold look in his eye and a critical tone in his voice. Why can't he treat me like an adult?" Martin's father used the business to keep Martin feeling inadequate, which in turn enabled his father to feel better about himself. When Dad pushed the right buttons, Martin became a helpless child in grown-up clothing. It took some time, but Martin finally came to realize that he had to give up the hope that his father would change. Martin is now working hard to change the way he deals with his father. The tyranny of manipulator. There is another powerful form of control that, while more subtle and covert than direct control, is every bit as damaging: manipulation. Manipulators get what they want without ever having to ask for it, without ever having to risk rejection by being open about manipulate others to varying degrees. Few of us are confident enough to just ask for everything we want in this world. So we develop indirect ways of asking. We don't ask our spouse for a glass of wine. We ask if there is any open. We don't ask our guests to leave at the end of the evening. We yarn. We don't ask an attractive stranger for a telephone number. We engage in small talk. Children manipulate parents as much as parents do children. Spouses, friends, and relatives all manipulate one another. Salesmen make a living out of manipulating. There is nothing inherently evil about it. In fact, it's a normal mode of human communication. But when it becomes a tool for consistent control, manipulation can be exceedingly destructive, especially in a parent child relationship, because manipulative parents are so adept at hiding their true motives. Their children live in a world of confusion. They know they're being had, but they can't figure out how. Next, why does she always have to help? One of the most common types of toxic manipulators is the helper. Instead of letting go, the helper creates situations to make him or herself needed in the adult child's life. This manipulation often comes packaged as well meaning but unwanted assistance. Lee, 32, is an outgoing, freckled faced, former top seeded amateur tennis player who has been doing very well as a tennis pro at a country club. Despite an active social life, professional recognition, and a good job, she was going into regular periods of deep depression. Her relationship with her mother quickly dominated our first session together. I've worked very hard to get where I am, but my mother doesn't think I can tie my own shoes. Her whole life is wrapped up in me, and it's gotten much worse since my dad died. She just doesn't let up. She's always bringing food over to my apartment because she doesn't think I eat well enough. Sometimes I come back to my place and find that she's come in and cleaned it as a favor. She's even rearranged my clothes and furniture. I asked Lee if she ever simply asked her mother to stop doing these things. All the time. She just welled up with tears and cries. What's wrong with a mother who helps a daughter she loves? Last month, I was invited to play a tournament in San Francisco. My mother went on and on about how far it was and how I couldn't possibly drive the whole way by myself. So she volunteered to come with me. When I told her she really didn't have to, she acted like I was trying to trick her out of a free vacation. So I said, okay. I had really been looking forward to the time alone. But what could I say? As Lee and I worked together in therapy, she began to see how much her feelings of competence had been undermined by her mother. But whenever Lee tried to express her frustration, she was overwhelmed by guilt because her mother appeared to be so loving and caring. Lee became increasingly angry at her mother, and since she couldn't let it out, she had to hold it in. Eventually, it found an outlet as depression. Of course, her depression just fed the cycle. Her mother never missed an opportunity to say things such as, look how down in the look. Let me fix a little lunch just to cheer you up. On those rare occasions when Lee did work up the courage to tell her mother how she felt, her mother would become the tearful martyr. Lee would invariably feel guilty and try to apologize, but her mother would cut her off with, don't worry about me. I'll be all right. I suggested to Lee that if her mother had been more direct in asking for what she wanted, Lee wouldn't have been so angry. Lee agreed. You're right. If she could only say, I'm lonely, I miss you, I'd like you to spend more time with me. At least I know what I was dealing with. I'd have some choices. The way it is now, it's like she's taken over my life. When Lee bemoaned her lack of choices, she was echoing what many adult children of manipulative parents believe. Manipulation paints people into a corner. To fight it, they have to hurt someone who's just trying to be nice. For most people, it seems easier to give in. On that note, I'm going to take a break from reading and see what you all are saying in the chat. Okay. Y'all still going to Kiss and Poke? I'm trying to see if anybody had anything to say or any questions. Can anybody relate to any of that I just shared with you guys? Any of those scenarios? When you think back at your growing up, can you relate to any of those situations maybe? Control, Phyllis said, how many folks want to control others? Hey, Shabaka House, how you doing? Glad to see you. Phyllis said, money, money, money. What some will not do to get it. Really, do money really make us happy? Does that sound familiar? Parents that intimidate their children? This is real. We may know some of these folks. Not only might know some of these folks, we could even be some of these folks. That's what I find when I'm reading a book. And I'll tell you something else. When I'm reading a book, you always think of people that you know, that this fits. Oftentimes you don't put yourself in that shoe, but you can always think of somebody you know that acts just like that, or who you think are just like that. I don't see anybody saying anything or asking any questions, so I'm going to continue because we're almost finished with the chapter. I'm going to continue reading. But first, I'm going to acknowledge the other Cash App that I received. I did not see it come down, but I see it now. And so I want to thank you so much. You are so appreciated.
Your face. You got to remove the excess water. Now she's coming
This
out.
is how you do it. Thank you. I also think I want to give us one of my favorites, Fred Hammond, my version. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. You see, Cheryl will do what she said she will do. She will stand by her word and see it through. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. It won't work. There just ain't one. There just ain't one weapon, no. You see, I'm the weapon. And I do what I say I'm going to do. Tis the season to be melancholy. Manipulative parents have a field day on holidays, spreading guilt as if it were Christmas cheer. Holidays tend to intensify whatever family conflicts already exist. Instead of anticipating holiday pleasure, many people find themselves dreading the rise of family tensions that holidays often bring. One of my clients, Fred, a 27-year-old grocery clerk, and the youngest of four siblings, told me a story of classic manipulation by his mother. My mother always made a big deal about all of us coming home for Christmas. Last year, I won a radio contest and got a free trip to Aspen over the holidays. I was really excited since I could never afford a trip like this myself. I love skiing, and it was an incredible chance for me to take my girlfriend someplace great. We'd both been working so hard. This vacation sounded like heaven. But when I broke the news to my mom, she looked like somebody just died. Her eyes glazed up and her lips started trembling, like she was going to cry. Then she said, "It's okay, honey. You have a good time. Maybe we just won't have Christmas dinner this year," which really made me feel like a real turd. I asked Fred whether he had managed to go on the trip anyway. Yeah, I went, but I had the worst time of my life. I was in such a horrible mood that I kept fighting with my girlfriend. I spent half the trip on the phone with my mother and both my brothers and my sister. I was apologizing all over the place. It wasn't worth the agony. I was frankly surprised that Fred had gone on his trip at all. I've seen people go so too far, more extravagant lengths to avoid feeling guilty than canceling a trip. Manipulative parents are masters of guilt, and Fred's mother was no exception. Of course, they had Christmas dinner without me, but my mother was so miserable she burned the turkey for the first time in 40 years. I got 3 phone calls from my sister telling me how I'd killed the family tradition. My oldest brother told me everybody was totally bummed out because I wasn't there. And then my other brother really laid one on me. He said, "Us kids are all she's got. How many more Christmases do you think mom has left? Like I'm abandoning her on her deathbed or something." Is that fair, Susan? She's not even 60. She's in perfect health. I'm sure he got that line straight from my mother's mouth. I'll never miss Christmas again. I'll tell you that. Instead of expressing her feelings directly to Fred, Fred's mother enlisted her other children to do it for her. This is an extreme, effective tactic for many manipulative parents. Remember, their primary goal is to avoid direct confrontation. Instead of accusing Fred herself, his mother played the role of martyr at Christmas dinner. She couldn't have made a more forceful condemnation of Fred if she'd taken an ad out in the paper. I explained to Fred that his mother and siblings had made their own choices to have a miserable Christmas. Fred was not responsible. Nothing but their own choices had stopped them from toasting Fred in his absence and having a fun-filled evening. As long as Fred continued to believe that he was a bad person because he dared to do something for himself, his mother would continue to control him through guilt. Fred eventually came to understand this and was effective in dealing with his mother. Though she sees her son's new assertiveness as some form of punishment, Fred is Fred has tipped the balance of power to the point where any concessions he makes are concessions of choice, not capitulation. Why can't you be more like your sister? Many toxic parents compare one sibling unfavorably with another to make the target child feel that he's not doing enough to gain parental affection. This motivates the child to do whatever the parents want in order to regain their favor. This divide and conquer technique is often unleashed against children who become a little too independent, threatening the balance of the family system. Whether consciously or unconsciously, these parents manipulate an otherwise normal sibling rivalry into a cruel competition that inhibits the growth of healthy siblings' bonds. The effects are far reaching. In addition to the obvious damage to the child's self image, negative comparisons create resentments and jealousies between siblings that can color their relationship for a lifetime. Rebel with the cause. When toxic parents control us in intense, intimidating, guilt producing, or emotionally crippling ways, we usually react in one of two ways. We capitulate or we rebel. Both of these reactions inhabit psychological separation, even though rebellion would seem to do just the opposite. The truth is, if we rebel in reaction to our parents, we are being controlled just as surely as if we submit. Jonathan, 55, is a nice looking athletic bachelor who owns a large computer software company. In our first session together, he almost apologized for his intense feelings of panic and loneliness. Now, don't start feeling sorry for me. I've got a beautiful house. I collect cars. I've got all kinds of possessions. I really lead an okay life. But there are times when I get very, very lonely. I have so much, and I can't share it with anyone. Sometimes I get this terrible feeling of loss for what I might have had in terms of a loving, intimate relationship. I'm terrified that I'm going to end up dying alone. I asked Jonathan if he had any idea why he was having such a difficult time with relationships. Every time I've gotten close to a woman or even thought about marrying someone, I've panicked and run. I don't know why. I wish I did. My mother never lets me hear the end of it. I asked Jonathan how he felt about this pressure from his mother. She's obsessed with my getting married. She's 81. She's in good health, and she has plenty of her own friends. But I feel like she spends her whole day worrying about my love life. I really love her, but I can't stand being around her because of this. She lives for my happiness. She smothers me with her concern. It's like I can't peel this woman off me. She's constantly trying to tell me how to live my life, always has. I mean, she would breathe for me if she could. Jonathan's last statement was a wonderfully graphic description of fusion. His mother was so enmeshed with him that she forgot where she ended and he began. She fused her life to his. Jonathan became an extension of her, as if his life were her life. Jonathan needed to free himself from her suffocating control, so he rebelled. He rejected whatever she wanted for him, including things he might otherwise desire, such as marriage. I suggested to Jonathan that he may have been so intent on rebelling against his controlling mother that he was ignoring his own true desires. It had become so important to him not to give in to his mother's wishes that he deprived himself of the kind of relationship with the woman he claimed to want. By doing this, he created for himself an illusion that he was his own man, but in reality, his need to rebel overpowered his free will. I'll call this self-defeating rebellion. It is the flip side of capitulation. Healthy rebellion is an active exercise of free choice. It enhances personal growth and individuality. Self-defeating rebellion is a reaction against a controlling parent, an exercise in which the means attempt to justify an unsatisfactory end. This is rarely in our best interest. Control from the grave. One of my group members once said, "My parents are both dead, so they don't have any power over me." Another member spoke out, "They may be dead, honey, but they're still living in your head." Both self-defeating rebellion and capitulation can persist long after a parent's death. Many people believe that once the controlling parent dies, they will be free. But the psychological umbilical cord reaches not only across continents, but out of the grave. I've seen hundreds of adults who were unflinchingly loyal to their parents' demands and negative messages long after their parents were gone. Eli, 60, a very successful businessman with an extraordinary intellect and a wry wit, made an unusually sophisticated assessment of his situation. "I'm a supporting player in my own life." When I first met Eli, despite being a millionaire many times over, he was living in a one-room apartment, driving an old clunker, and living the lifestyle of a man who could barely make ends meet. He was extremely generous with his two adult daughters, but an obsessive penny pitcher with himself. I remember one day when he came to see me after work, I asked him how his day had been, and he laughingly told me that he had almost blown an $18 million deal because he'd been late for a meeting. Though usually punctual, Eli had circled the block for 20 minutes looking for a parking place on the street to avoid the cost of a building's lot. He had jeopardized $18 million for the sake of a $5 parking fee. As we explored some of the roots of his obsession with saving money, it became apparent that his father's voice, even 12 years after his death, still resounded in Eli's head. My parents were poor immigrants. I grew up in total squalor. My folks, particularly my father, taught me to be afraid of everything. He would say, "It's a savage world out there. If you don't watch your step, you'll get eaten alive." He made me feel that I had nothing to look forward to except danger. And he didn't stop even after I'd gotten married and made a lot of money. He'd always be giving me the third degree about what I was spending on things and what I bought. And when I made the mistake telling him, his standard response was, "You idiot. You waste money on luxuries. You should be saving every penny. Hard times will come. They always do. And then you will need that money." It got to the point that I was terrified to spend a penny. My father never thought of life as something that could be enjoyed. He just saw it as something we had to endure. Eli's father projected the terrors and hardships of his own life on his son. When Eli went on to success, he heard his father's admonitions every time he tried to enjoy the fruits of his labor. His father's catastrophic predictions formed a never-ending tape loop in Eli's head. Even if Eli could bring himself to buy something for his own pleasure, his father's voice would prevent him from enjoying it. His father's general mistrust of the future carried through to his thoughts on women. Like success, women would inevitably turn on you someday. He had a suspicion of women that bordered on paranoia. His son internalized these views as well. "I've had nothing but bad luck with women. I've just never been able to trust them. My wife divorced me because I kept accusing her of extravagance. It was ridiculous. She'd buy a handbag or something, and I started thinking bankruptcy court. As I worked with Eli, it became clear that money was not the only issue that came between him and his wife. He had a very hard time expressing feelings, especially tender ones, and she found this increasingly frustrating. This problem persisted in his single life, as he expressed it. Every time that I take out a woman, I hear my father's voice saying, "Women love to trick men. They'll take you for all you've got if you're stupid enough to let them." I guess that's why I've always gone for inadequate women. I know they can't outsmart me. I always make lots of promises about taking care of them financially or setting them up in business, but I never follow through. I guess I'm trying to trick them before they trick me. Will I ever find a woman I can trust? Here was a bright, perceptive man who allowed powerful forces from beyond the grave to control him. Even though he understood intellectually what was happening, he was a prisoner of his father's fear and mistrust. Eli worked extremely hard in therapy. He took risks and pushed himself to adopt new behaviors. He began to confront many of his internal terrors. Ultimately, he bought a luxurious condominium, a big step for him. He still felt guilty about it, but he learned to tolerate the guilt. The voice inside his head will always be there, but he has learned to turn down the volume. Eli is still struggling with his mistrust of women, but he has learned to see this mistrust as a legacy from his father. He is working hard to trust the woman he's currently dating, using that trust as a weapon to gain control of his life. I'll always remember the day he came in and told me that he fought off a wave of jealousy the night before and come away with a particularly warming sense of victory. He looked at me with tearful eyes and said, "You know, Susan, there is simply nothing in my current reality to justify my being as afraid as I was. I feel like I can't breathe." Barbara, 39, a tall, slender composer of background music for television shows, came to see me in a devastating depression. I wake up at night and there is an emptiness almost like a death inside of me. I was a musical prodigy, played Mozart piano, concertos at age 5, and had a scholarship to Juilliard by the time I was 12. My career is going great, but I'm dying inside. I was hospitalized for depression 6 months ago. I think I'm going to lose myself. I don't know where to turn. I asked Barbara if something specific had happened to precipitate her hospitalization, and she told me that she had lost both her parents within 3 months. My heart ached for her, but she was quick to try to dissuade me from empathizing. "It's okay. We hadn't spoken in a few years, so I felt like I'd already lost them." I asked her to tell me what had caused the separation. When Chuck and I were planning to get married a little over 4 years ago, my parents insisted on coming and staying with us to help with the wedding. That was all I needed, for them to be breathing down my neck like they did when I was a kid. I mean, they were always meddling. I was always getting the Spanish Inquisition about what I was doing, who I was doing it with, where I was going. Anyway, I offered to put them up in a hotel since Chuck and I were under enough stress before the wedding, and they really got crazy. They told me that unless they could come and stay with me, they would never speak to me again. For the first time in my life, I stood up to them. What a mistake that was. First, they didn't come to the wedding. Then they told the entire family what a bitch I was. Now, none of them talk to me. A few years after my marriage, she made every member of the family swear not to tell me
No weapon
formed against me. No weapon. No. I hit that by accident. Okay, let me go back. She made every member of the family swear not to tell me when she died. I didn't find out until 5 months later when I ran into a family friend who expressed condolences. That's how I found out my mother had died. I went straight home and called my father. I don't know, I guess I thought we could patch things up. The first thing he said was, "You should be happy now. You've killed your mother." I was devastated. He went on to grieve himself to death 3 months later. Every time I think of them, I hear them accusing me, and it makes me feel like a murderer. They're still strangling me with their accusations, even though they're both 6 feet under. What does it take to get them out of my head, out of my life? Like Eli, Barbara was being controlled from the grave. She spent several years feeling responsible for killing her parents, which devastated her mental health and almost destroyed her marriage. She became desperate to escape her sense of guilt. Since they died, I've been very suicidal. It seemed like the only way to stop those voices in my head that keep saying, "You killed your father, you killed your mother." I was so close to killing myself, but you know what kept me from doing it? I shook my head. She smiled for the first time during our hour together and replied, "I was afraid I might run into my parents again." It was bad enough that they ruined my life here on earth. I wasn't about to give them a chance to destroy whatever I might find on the other side. Like most adult children of toxic parents, Barbara was able to acknowledge some of the pain her parents had caused her. But that wasn't enough to help her transfer her feelings of responsibility from herself to them. It took some doing, but we finally worked through it together, and she came to accept her parents' full responsibility for their cruel behavior. Her parents were dead, but it took Barbara another year before she could get them to leave her alone. And this is the last part of the reading. No separate identity. Parents who feel good about themselves do not have to control their adult children. But the toxic parents we've met in this chapter operate from a deep sense of dissatisfaction with their lives and a fear of abandonment. Their children's independence is like the loss of a limb to them. As a child grows older, it becomes ever more important for the parent to pull the strings that keep the child independent. As long as toxic parents can make their son or daughter feel like a child, they can maintain control. As a result, adult children of controlling parents often have a very blurred sense of identity. They have trouble seeing themselves as separate beings from their parents. They can't distinguish their own needs from their parents' needs. They feel powerless. All parents control their children until those children gain control of their own lives. In normal families, the transition occurs soon after adolescence. In toxic families, these healthy separations is delayed for years or forever. It can only occur after you have made the changes that will enable you to gain mastery over your own life. And that is the end of chapter 3. So now, tell me, what do you guys think? Is anybody participating other than Phyllis? Okay. The Korea La Princita. I don't know how you say your name. So I just messed your name up. The Korea La Princita. Oh my, horrible trip. I know how that works. Trinity joined in. Shabaka House said, very familiar. I heard of controlling from the grave. Now I hear what they really mean. Can anyone identify these toxic parents? Oh my, one and the same with the parents. Oh my, one and the same with the parents. Stop the madness. Maybe that is what is happening to some of these chat folks. Said again, I missed the question. I see folks love drama. Drama sells. Yeah, that's true, Phyllis. And I'll tell you, I think that is what's wrong with a lot of the chat folks. I see my drill say it again. I missed the question. Oh, I was just saying, can anybody relate to any of the things that I read in this chapter, Maria? I think that's a lot of the people problem that's in this section. And perhaps they don't even know that that's why they have the feeling of being so tied to drama and having to hurt someone or to laugh at someone else's pain. It's to get away from whatever it is that, they're dealing with themselves. Okay, Maria. And yeah, take care of that person. I mean, really, they're so ridiculous. So ridiculous. It is so very unnecessary. But I really believe that that's what's wrong with a lot of these people that, sit up and participate. And even if they don't participate, just be a part of the manipulation part. Exactly right. The manipulation in life and in death. And that's why it's always good. I think all of us as adults at some point in life ought to have some form of therapy. And I just say that because I know that it's a very, very, very good thing when you're able to empty your wastebasket. And again, if you can't afford to go to anybody, the best way to do it is to get you a pen and paper and write. It's something about writing that's very liberating. You get to speak your honest truth. A lot of times I find that we don't want to speak the honest truth to one another for fear that the people won't accept us for who we are, or they won't really like us if we told them how we really felt on certain issues and about certain things. And so it's very therapeutic. I'm glad that you like it. And then, especially with the talent that you have, it makes it even better. It takes so little, but it seems like a lot because the effort is you have to put it in there. But it takes so little, really, to get rid of a years of pain that you thought that you had to live with for the rest of your life. Because first you didn't really understand where the pain come from, but if you heard the stories, a lot of the pain came from the manipulation and the trickery and the controlling of the parent. And the child didn't even understand that that's what was happening to them until they became an adult. And they were still acting as if they were children. And then they had to actually say, wait a minute, something's not right, because it wasn't working in their adult life. They couldn't even have an adult life. That's one of the things that children always say. And I know that I said it, I'm sure others said it, and that is, I can't wait to get grown. Because you're going to do what you want to do. That's what you think. I'm going to go where I want to go. I'm going to say what I want to say. And you often find that when you get to be an adult, none of that happens the way you purposed it in your mind as a child. And that's because you were thinking as a child. you could not think as an adult. And so it's very, 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 it could be complicated, but it doesn't have to be. And one of the good things is it's always good to find somebody that you can talk to, but not anybody that you would hang out with or talk to on a daily basis, because what you're trying to do is empty the garbage that you have inside of you. And if you talk to a person that you talk to on a daily basis and you all have a friendship, or even if it's a mate or whatever, and then you all get angry, we tend to use what we know about one another against one another. So that's why it's not wise. You can share whatever you want to share with that person that you're close to in the name of honesty, but make sure that that's your choice, that's your decision, and you're just sharing it because you've already dealt with the pain of what it caused you. But if you don't do that, then you can find yourself in a worse state than you were before you started dealing with your issues. But it is always good to deal with your issues. I find that's why I like the saying, to thine own self be true. If you're true to yourself, you'll be true to everybody. Whether they accept your truth or like your truth, that's a different story. But if you remain true to yourself, and that's one of the things that you want to do as we get ready for the children going back to school. Um, I looked at Iceberg this morning. He talked about the college students, and that separation is really something, because now they're not going to have you to remind them to get up. And if you take them to school, or if they ride the bus, or if they drive themselves, they're going to have to do all of that on their own now. They're going to have to do their clothing, their scheduling, getting to and from timely. And when you, everybody says that's been to college, said that all the children really need that college experience. It's really something that really helps them as they're stepping into, the new them. And I went to college, but when I went to college, it was right here in the city. So I didn't live on the campus. I just went to the college and came home. And that makes a difference. Then when you go away and get the experience, they call it, the real college experience, it's nothing like it. And that's probably true. But I never really liked school. That was just an option that I chose because I hadn't found a job. And so I chose school. And my dad was one of those dads, you're going to get a job or go to school or go on. And I wasn't going nowhere. So I went to school, and then I found a job and started working. And then I met my first husband and married and moved on, like that. But I tell you, learning to love yourself, as the song says, is the greatest love of all. And a lot of us don't even know that we don't love ourselves. That's the sad thing. A lot of us don't know that we don't love ourselves. And like I said, that's the sad thing. That's the sad thing, is that we don't know that we don't love ourselves. So we sell ourselves short, and we accept unacceptable behavior in the name of friendship and in the name of love. And love it doesn't hurt. Neither does friendship. I shouldn't have to feel a certain way to talk to a friend. We should be able to be ourselves. And anytime that you're in a situation of love or friendship, and it costs you too much to say hello, then you may want to think, why are you in that situation, and what are you getting out of that situation? You might want to do that, because because love, and that's not friendship. A lot that are friendship and love have nothing to do with the other. Nothing to do with the other. It's not pain. Doesn't mean you don't feel pain involved in either one of those relationships, but it doesn't cause you pain. I think the biggest problem that I have and that I see with other people is the ability to have adult conversations. Now, I see a lot of people that really can have adult conversations, and that really blows my mind. I really enjoy seeing that when you can talk one on one and talk freely. That that blows my mind. But I think that to me is one of the greatest problems that we have. Um, it could be generational. It could be as a people. Period. Is being able to communicate one with another. But I thought that this book is so powerful, and the conversation really needs to be had. How are we really rearing our children, and what are we requiring of them, and what are we doing to them, and maybe knowingly or unknowingly, are we preparing them for um, self-discipline, to be able to give them a set of rules to follow, and to see how they follow the rules. And then if they don't follow the rules, what's the repercussions for not following the rules? What are the consequences? Do you allow your children to have a conversation and speak freely uh, with you as a parent? A lot of people out here say that they're not their child's friend, and I don't really know what that means because I'm my child's friend, but I'm his mother as well. So I understand how to draw the lines and the boundaries. But I want him to be, and he has been, and is to this day as a grown man, free to have a conversation with me about whatever subject that he chooses to have the conversation about, or that I choose to have a conversation about. We are free to conversate and enjoy each other's conversation. I don't know how many are in here. Nobody is saying anything. Nobody have any questions or anything they want to add to the conversation on what they read, or what they heard. It looks not. So perhaps my job is done because I have things that I'm engaged in apart from YouTube. But I thoroughly wanted to come and present my show so that we could. Hey, Donkey Green, how you doing? Hey, Madria. Donkey, you came in. I don't know how long you've been here, but I read from this book. It's called Toxic Parents. And I've been reading like a chapter, and sometimes I get derailed, but I went back to chapter 3, which was Why Can't They Just Let Me Live My Own Life? And it's talking about controlling parents. And what it did is, if you get an opportunity to look at the replay, if you didn't get to hear most of the reading, but what I kind of suggest that people do is, if they, are really interested in children being our future, which is that's what we all say we're interested in, and we all have different parenting styles, and we all come from, different backgrounds, yet they all seem similar. To just listen to the lesson, take notes, and if anything apply, then listen to how the therapist, Dr. Susan Ford, how she talked with the individuals and let them realize what it is that's keeping them in the condition that they're in at the moment that they needed to come to her. I really think everybody pretty much as an adult need to have some form of therapy, but I also believe that you have to be careful about who you choose for a therapist, because if you're not careful, you only get an hour. If you're not careful, you'll be sitting in there and they'll start telling you their story and you'll become the therapist, but you're paying them for the time to help you make decisions that only you can make. I'm going to replay it on my way to work. I got to get up at 12 a.m. while driving in. Okay, fantastic. Well, you be safe driving into work at 12 a.m. What part of the United States are you in? I'm in Dallas, Texas. I know that they've been having some rain in some parts of the United States, but we haven't had any in a few days now. It's been a while since we've had some rain. It's been awfully hot, but we haven't had any rain. But it's scorching, to be honest. And some places are having all kind of storms. Okay, you in the Bay Area. All righty then. That's a beautiful area. We went to San Francisco. My son used to love Alcatraz in San Francisco. And so we went there for his graduation present. And it was awfully beautiful looking out over the bay. And my aunt lived in Oakland up in the mountains. And so you could be in her den and look out over the bay. That was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it was breathtaking, to be honest, because you could look all over and it was beautiful. But yeah, so that's basically what it was about, is just talking about adult children of toxic parents. And not all parents are toxic, but perhaps you can identify with some of the things that are being said. And some people are being controlled, from the grave. And they didn't understand that that's what was happening until they actually had an opportunity to talk it out with Dr. Susan. And she pointed out some things and they were working through some things. A lot of our belief systems, definitely are somebody else's, is what we've been taught. And, I told the story once of the lady. They were cooking a holiday dinner and they had this roasting pan and they get the ham and they cut it off on both sides and put it in the pan. And the daughter asked the mother, why did they do that? And the mother said, oh, I don't know. My mother did it. And she asked her mother. I don't know. My mother did it. And she asked her mother. And she said, because the pan was too little. And so I cut both ends off to make it fit. So a lot of people do things because they don't really know the history of how something began. And so we need to definitely want to know our beginning. That's what I started out talking about. And I think I've talked that about as much as I can talk. If anybody are interested in, of course, the Henry Campbell's Black's Law Dictionary, or if they're interested in the book Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, I give them away freely. All you have to do is send me an email to the email address toothlesstiger7@gmail.com and request a copy. And it's PDF file. I'll be more than happy to send it to anybody that's interested. Exactly. This voting thing is really something, and I really wish that we could have a real conversation about that. People really don't understand, if we don't finance our politicians, it's not much that's going to happen for us. We can have all the beautiful ideas and the hopes and the dreams, but people tend to go with who supports them, and that's just how it goes financially. And it makes all the sense in the world, even though it's supposed to be a republic form of government where we have a selective few representing we the people. That doesn't always take place. And we need to ask ourselves, hey, chosen to be blessed. We need to ask ourselves, at what point in time are we going to really ask for something and get it? And I'm not talking about just reparations. That's important, but when you own it all, why don't you try to go for something a little bit more than that? But with people in disarray like we are and so against one another, I wish that we would start going back to the times when we were really fighting for the right just to be, the right to breathe, the right to be human, and start back working together as people. I find a lot of times I don't get out much, now, but um, before I stopped getting out much, people didn't even speak to one another like we used to. We as a people never passed each other in the street and didn't say hello, and especially men would always speak to women, and vice versa. But now it's like both of us are trying to break our necks not to speak. And I don't know what that's all about. But there has to come a time where we got to see that it's got to be more to life than bickering and fighting and beefing. And, perhaps that's what's bringing in the money for, some people. But there can't be much money. And it can't be enjoyed money because it's too many people have to suffer. And this is an opportunity for us to have a platform where we say we don't have an opportunity. Don't nobody know what's going on with us. Nobody's talking about it. Well, nobody's talking about it because everybody's talking about each other and beating up on each other. And they're not trying to find a solution. And I believe in the saying like the Army has, the one-man army. You teach your family, you learn it, and then you teach it to your family because charity begins at home and spreads abroad. And then if everybody work towards the same goal, then together we can make a difference. But we almost have to do everything independently because with other people, there's always an opportunity for someone to sell you out or to cut you out. You see it happening all the time. And at some point in time, we've got to learn to lay aside our differences and work together for the common good. Because we have children that are going back to school now, coming off of the illnesses when they shut down all the systems. And a lot of our children are way behind. And I don't see them getting any better with just looking at the environment here on this metaverse. It's very hard to believe these people are spending time with their children and ensuring that they can read and they can write and that they have conversations that they would let them know how to handle themselves, what to do with their anger if someone should make them angry, how to respond, who to be able to go talk to if you have a problem, things of that nature. I don't see any of that. Uh, and perhaps it's just as far as my eyes can see. But just seeing the disrespect, the blatant disrespect on this app, it's just hard to believe that people flock to disrespect and give to disrespect and then go home and be respectful. it's very hard for me to believe that, and that's just my own personal belief. But what I do know is, for me, I'm going to keep moving forward with what I do, and I have a channel, a second channel that I'm going to use for comedy and all of that good stuff. But I haven't decided when I'm going to go over there. But right now, I'm just going to do what I purposed in my heart to do, and that's to come on here on Wednesdays and Sundays and to share what I have to give. And I thank everybody who comes by and listen to the sound of my voice. Hopefully, I say something that will spark you to want to research or want to know what it is that I'm talking about. Uh, these books, this is an old book, and I got it at the thrift bookstore where you get them for half price or less than half price. Toxic Parents is an excellent book. I read this book when I was on my road to recovery. I was a codependent person, and I thought I could save everybody and love them. And found out the hard way, no, I can't do either. But what I can do is find out why I had the need to want to save everybody and help everybody. And so I started dealing with me. And when you go through phases of therapy, you get suggestions of books to read. And if you put in the work, you'll get the reward that comes with putting in the work. And for me, I learned a lot about me as an individual. I didn't know about me as a human being, as an Asiatic female, being of Moorish descent, uh, being Aboriginals from the land. I learned that about 10 years ago, and I read and I've studied and I researched a lot on my own. Thank you so much, Chosen to be blessed. I appreciate you. But I studied and studied, and one, I came into the knowledge of the truth. And a lot of people kind of get caught up because we're searching for something to make us feel like we belong when it's in us all along. We just have to go in and pull it out. And we don't know that because we haven't been told enough that we are the Aboriginal people. We're very important people. And we could go with name calling for years. That's not the issue. The issue is learning how to be an American and learning what makes you an American. And your very birth makes you an American. Knowing the laws that governs the land. It's all about contracts. And I'm not an attorney. I don't give legal advice, but I know how to research and I know how to read. And I know if you listen to a lot of the scholars, they'll tell you that history and law must be studied together so that your concepts can be right about what you think you know. Because a lot of things we think we know, we don't. We don't even know how to read. And that kind of, when I heard that, I thought that was laughable until I heard the word etymology that I had never heard before. And when I heard that word, it was so amazing. I'm like, etymology, what is that? And when I saw the definition and learned that the etymon is the origin of the word, then you can kind of start looking and listening with a different set of ears. And it's written, he who have ears, let him hear. He who have eyes, let him see. And a lot of things are open right before our eyes in plain sight, but they appear to be closed to us because we don't know what they are. So it really makes a difference when you start researching and learning who you are and why you think the way you think and why you eat what you eat, whatever it is that you're involved in that makes you an individual. It is really interesting to know how that came about. And no matter what part of the country we're in, If you listen to any one of us, and I'm talking about the Asiatic people now, if you listen to any one of us talk in growing up in the hood, we all pretty much have the same stories. We could tell each other's story because we all pretty much grew up the same way. Not all of us, but most of us. We did. And we have that in common. And that used to be what binded us and what made us close is the commonality. But as we become adults and come into our own and start making a living, and then we kind of tend to forget about our beginnings and we start looking at each other differently. And I think that's where we have a problem as a people. But I believe that all of us have an opportunity to be better than we were before we started today. We can be better. It's just a choice that one makes. But if you don't know that you have choices, you can't make that choice. And so, what I try to get people to understand is that you have a choice to be happy or to be sad, to be a part of something great or to be in something that's not so great. It's your decision, and you have to make that choice. Hello, M Soul and Asatar. It's so good to see you guys. You guys, I think, missed all of my reading. I did chapter 3 of Toxic Parents by Dr. Susan Ford. Chapter 3 was very good. It talked about the controlling parents and the different things that they use to manipulate us with. And it was very interesting. So you might want to look at the replay or listen to certain parts because it's very good stories of the people that she did counseling with. And that's what I like about the book is because she shared actual counseling sessions that she had with her people, and she even give you the development of the people. Let me see. I'll probably be on the playback soon. Yeah, I know you will, Asator. I know you will, Asator. Yeah, but it's really a good book, and that's where we're going back to uh, toxic parents. We're gonna keep because as I was stating, if we say children are our future, what are we really giving the children? Given the climate of this metaverse and the universe, our children are missing a lot. They really are. And I think it's because we're missing a lot as adults and we don't even understand ourselves because a lot of the things that are tolerated here, there has to be a lot of miserable people, a lot of hurting people, and they don't know why. I just wonder why so many people flock to the thing that they say they don't like the most, and that's to be put down and talked about and mistreated. But that's where the majority of the people go whenever they hear something's going on. They can't wait to get there and support that. Uh, Maybe they feel that the people that want us to be better than what we used to be, better than we were yesterday, maybe they think we can't tell them anything, and perhaps we can't. But I think that we're in a crisis right now, and we truly need each other. But we need to learn to be independent as well as being interdependent beings. We need to learn to be independent and teach our young because we say they're our future, but at the look of these people, what are we giving our future? I don't think we're giving them much. And MSO say, oh my gosh, a whole lot. That's why it's our responsibility as parents to teach our children. That is so very true. Hi, Iceberg. Thank you for coming through to show support and hit the like button. And like I said, chapter 3 was an awesome chapter of toxic parents. So you guys check that out. I believe that you will enjoy some of it because it may not apply to you. And that's another thing. It may apply to people you know, people you love. You may witness this, And this could give you a better understanding of what you're witnessing and why a lot of people act or react to things the way they do. And Billy said parents are not all good parents. Some parents are very controlling. Yes, some parents are very controlling because they've been controlled and manipulated their whole lives, and they don't even understand that that's what they're doing to their child. That's why it always almost have to stop with you, whoever you the individual is. And a lot of people, they call it a lot of different things. I call it pathology. But if you understand how something starts, then you can understand how to put an end to it. And if you've been going through it your whole life, that's all you know, then it's not going to happen for you overnight. It's some work you're going to have to put into it. And my suggestion to anybody, if you don't have money to go to therapy, then I suggest that you write. Writing is your best friend. It gives you an opportunity to be one with your thoughts and your pain, your happiness, whatever it is you're feeling. And you can put it to writing. And you don't write for other people, you write for yourself, to free yourself. And so it doesn't matter how you spell the words or whatever. Hey, Angie, it doesn't matter how you spell the words or whatever. What you do is you just write to get it out of you, because we all need to empty the garbage that we've collected over the years. And some of us didn't even know we were collecting garbage. And we wonder why people treat us a certain way, or why things work out the way they work out for us, or whatever the situation may be. And a lot has to do with who we have become. And you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, that's just me. It's just the way I am. No, it's not. It's learned behavior. It's not just the way you are. You learn to be that way. Iceberg said facts journaling is to get the stuff off your mind and heart. Yeah, you call it emptying that garbage can. And you do it for yourself. Like I said, when I first learned about therapy and working on me, I used to write and leave the folder around for my significant other to see it, as if he didn't know what he was doing was hurting me. We have to come out of the notion that people don't know that they're hurting you when they're hurting you, because oftentimes they do know. And they may not know how to stop it. They may not even know why they're doing it, but that could be a part of their pathology. And so that's all they know. And normally those two pathologies come together thinking it's going to be something great, but it ended up being almost always worse than it would have been had you all went your separate ways. But whatever it takes to get you to the point to where you know that something in your life needs to change, that's where you start pulling out your pen and your paper. And a lot of people may want to go to therapy but may not be able to afford therapy. In a lot of places, therapy is on a sliding fee scale, but you have to be very careful, like I said, who you choose as a counselor, because you want wise counseling. You don't want to go to a therapist and after the second session, you go to tell your story and then they start telling you their story. And then you become the therapist, because no one can really tell you what to do. What a therapist is there for is to kind of guide you and to show you different alternatives that you may not have thought of, another way to do something that you do every day. They give you another way. And anytime you're not getting that and you're getting their life story, then you know you're in the wrong office. That's not where you want to be. And I think that everybody really should try it, because as adults, sometimes there are just things you just don't have nobody to tell what you really want to tell to. And you really need to tell another human being something that's on your heart or a burning desire. It has to come out. If you don't vocalize it, then you internalize it, and then it starts working on you in your psyche in your ability to move around, in your ability to do anything really. You may tend to lash out, things of that nature. It's so many different variables there. So it's always good to um, think of yourself. So say, yes, I always had a diary or a journal. It depends on how I feel when it comes to writing. If I want to be a child diary or an adult journal. Is that weird? No, it's not. Because we all have the little girl or the little boy inside of us. So for us that are girls, we have the little girl, and for those that are boys, they have the little boy, and for those who choose whatever they want, they have whatever they want. But it's always there, the little girl that grew up to be a woman. She's always there. And if she was not nurtured and loved properly growing up, then as she becomes a woman, she may end up in relationships that may not be so great. And I don't mean just men or women, I mean friendships. Sometimes we have abusive friends, abusive relatives. We just think because we're related, we're supposed to take whatever they dish out, and that's not true. So, no, we need sometimes for that little girl to be able to express herself and within ourselves, and we know that's what it is. No, and so that's fantastic. I think that's good. And like I said, it's better when you're doing it for you and not for nobody else. Because trust me, nobody is going to get it the way you get it, because it's you that you're learning to love. So I was just saying with the song that I always play about Whitney Houston, the children are our future. Learning to love yourself truly is the greatest love of all. And you got to learn to forgive yourself. A lot of times we forgive everybody around us for everything they do to us, but we forget to forgive ourselves. And we need to say it. You need to honestly forgive yourself for whatever you think you need to forgive yourself for. It's all about you. And when you understand that, then you can make it about somebody else. It starts with self love, self care, self help. We think that somebody's going to help us. You got to help yourself no matter what, no matter who you go see. You got to be a part of it because it's you that's going there. And so if you don't realize the importance of you, I'm going to tell you, you're going to miss the mark. You're very important. And you got to tell yourself that, and you got to know it. It doesn't mean that you don't love and care for others. But, it's just like when you're taking a flight, they tell you if something should happen to the oxygen in here, pull down that mask, put it on your face first. A lot of people, I'm going to save well, why would you save the baby and you dead? Who's going to treat the baby right? Put it on you first and then put it on the baby. And if both of y'all make it, well, we happy. But, it doesn't make sense to not take care of you. Because if you're not there, nobody's going to take care of the baby like you would. And it's your baby. And you got to just put it in that situation. Something that you can see. It doesn't have to be a baby. You can make it whatever you want to. But we're visual people. And oftentimes we have to put things that make it make sense. We have to be able to visualize it in our own heads, in our own minds. And once we can do that, then it becomes simplified for us. Sometimes words can make it a little complex. Hey, Kelly, good to see you. Well, I'm glad all of you guys came, and you all came right when I'm about to leave. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you for the likes. Again, check out this video. It is very good. It's chapter 3 of Toxic Parents, and it's about the controlling parents. And the title of the chapter was, Why Can't They Let Me Live My Own Life? And so it just tells about different ways that parents manipulate their children and the type of control that they, exert over their children, and the different things they'll say to you, and to get you to do what they want you to do, as opposed to what you want to do, and you're not realizing that you're giving in to some things that happened when you were a kid, and this is how they did it, and they continue to do it as you were an adult, and you're trying to live an adult life, but they just won't let you. And it talks about the tyranny of manipulation, and how they use the holidays against you. She gives some good examples, and she gives, actually true testimonies of her patients with their permission. And then how they sometimes compare you to your siblings, and how you become a rebel without a cause, and how some parents even control from the grave. She gave some very good examples. And then the parent that says that, I feel like I can't breathe because the parent wants to breathe for you, kind of like living vicariously through you, more or less. And then the ones that don't have a separate identity. This is a very, very good book, and I will continue to do that. But I decided to go back to my material, and let these other people do what they do. Uh, and I'm talking about the crazy ones that's, coming for me. I'm going to let them continue to come, and I'm going to continue to let them be behind me as I continue to move forward into why I came onto YouTube. And I thank you guys for coming and supporting me. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Sunday. Have a beautiful rest of your week. I'm sure I'll see you all in somebody's chat, Sister T's or Uncle Shugs. Yes, Kelly, they will most definitely fade away. I'm going to give them that opportunity, and they can say whatever they need to say. But it's too much life that's being impacted in this real world that really I just don't feel the need to keep, trying to prove to a people who don't want truth that, I've done nothing to anybody. They know that. I don't have to tell people that. They know it. And if they can live with themselves and justify, at 40 to 50 years old, talking and listening to someone degrade a woman that's 64 every day, hey, have fun. That's all I can tell them, because one day they won't be laughing. Not at me. And so that's what I know is true. And so no weapon, as I know. They didn't say that they wouldn't form the weapon. It just don't work. Not with me. And I would rather be on here doing what I came here to do. And that's to help uplift fallen humanity. And that's people. We all are broken. I believe we're all sick. Some are sicker than others. And some of us have actually worked out our issues with ourselves, and therefore we can deal with anybody and anything. And that we don't want to deal with, we let roll off our backs, and we keep going. We are phenomenal women and men, those of us who work hard at being integral individuals. I think we're phenomenal. And I think it's too few of us, but there may be some that's just afraid. And they're afraid, and there's nothing to fear but fear itself. A lot of people say they only fear God, but we know that's not true. We see it here on this metaverse every day, how people who are supposed to be adults succumb to the wiles of these men and women on here that say some really, I don't know, pernicious stuff. These people are all caught in a quagmire, and they don't even understand that they're there. But they're there. And I would just rather leave them there. I like to just, you know, keep it simple. Life is so very complex. We need to try to keep it as simple as possible. It's not a hard thing to do. It's a choice. And that's what I want people to know, the good news. It's a choice. And you can choose. You can choose. Like she was telling the young man about the holidays when the parent was getting on him and the siblings because this one brother decided to break the tradition and go on a trip that he won. And they blamed him for everything that went wrong. And as the doctor explained, they chose that outcome. You didn't cause it. They could have been happy and just toasted you on and had a good dinner. Instead, everybody blamed him for them not having a good time because he wasn't there. So that's the kind of things that happen to us as children that we don't really realize the impact it has on our lives until we're at a breaking point somewhere. And then we're trying to figure out, how did I get here? How did I get here? And a lot of people, if they ask themselves that question, they'll blame everybody but themselves. They won't see anything that they failed to do or anything that they did to put them in the position that they're in. It's always going to be somebody else's fault. And Kelly said those fearing men need to know God is a jealous God. And So said exactly, a choice. And Angie said 100, 100, 100, Kelly. And Maria said, yep, so true. Yeah, so, we have too much to give each other. And, if these people don't want what we have, we can lift each other up and keep on moving, because it's somebody that's in the world that's getting to see the video, hopefully learn something and do something different. But again, if anybody wants the Henry Campbell's Black Law Dictionary or Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, those are the two books that I've been giving away ever since I've been on YouTube. They're PDFs, and you can send me an email and I will send them to you at no cost to you. It's just good to know how to live in this country. And one of the things we need to know is legal definitions of words. We need to know that. A lot of people think we don't, but I promise you, you do. Everything we do is in contract law. And one word may mean one thing in our everyday conversation, and in law, it may mean something totally different. And one word that comes to mind is person. Person, most of us think of person as a human being, and person is a human being. But because of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, then person also became an association, a corporation, a partnership, LLC. Those are persons as well. So it's just kind of good to know that you know. Um, Again, I'm not an attorney. I don't practice law, and I don't give legal advice. But I do know that history and law should be studied together so that your concepts can be correct, because that's where we missed it a lot. I can ask 10 people, and 9 of them can't tell me how many articles to the Constitution there are. And that's unfortunate. The Constitution, it does not give us rights. What it does is it protects the rights, the unalienable rights that we were born with. And many of us have no clue about the Constitution and its articles and amendments. But it's a very, very, very powerful tool, along with treaties. And most of us truly know nothing about treaties. But if you learn history and law, and just start learning it on your own through your own research, you would be amazed at the knowledge you would acquire. I mean, just really reading one thing make you feel like a scholar. Of course, you know you're not, but I'm just saying it's so liberating when you start learning something that you've never even been privy to because you didn't even know that you had the need to know it. And that's what is fascinating to me, to learn things that I didn't know that I had a need to know. That, it's important to my everyday life, even though I don't speak that language every day. But like the word jurisdiction is very important, very important. Personal, it's very important. Subject matter is very important. Territorial, it's very important. But we don't even have a thought of those type things. And I didn't either before I started on my journey 10 years ago. But I feel very good about what I've learned, and that's why I was very eager to share it. And some people gravitated to it, and others just think it's that old slave talk. But if we're not careful, if we don't know where we came from, we may end up back on that same block, just like down on that pier, that dock that was down there in Alabama, that same place where they uh, jumped the captain of the dock that everybody loved. Is the same place they used to put men, women, and children before they sold them off for auction. Is he the guy that be like on the property and making film and telling them that he has the right to film? Kelly, is that the guy? I see several people. My 15-minute nap at 6 p.m. became a 2-hour, 15-minute nap. Looks like I missed a good one. Knocked out, waiting on my barber. Who's taking forever? Okay, yes, 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 Kelly, yes. I have. I have. I don't want to say Florida, but I want to say Florida. That's what I want to say, but I'm not really sure that that's where he is. But he's always out in front of different government buildings or going inside them, and they're telling him that he can't film, and he can. A lot of people don't understand that they don't have to identify themselves when an officer just asks for your ID. That's not lawful. And I have a video on lawful and legal, but it's in the penal code in whatever state you're in, I'm sure, because all states have the rules of civil procedure for that state. And ours is, I think, 38-2. And, unless you're being lawfully detained or under arrest, then you have to give your ID. But if not, you don't have to give your ID. Of course, I don't know if what you have to learn is to keep your mouth closed, too. When they tell you, Miranda, he fought for those rights for a reason, you have the right to remain silent. I think a lot of us, our problem is we don't exercise our rights. And we have the need to want to be right. So we feel the need to say stuff, and we shouldn't say anything if it's not required. And Phyllis said, yes, We need not stand back and allow the laws to erase our history. Okay, need to share what we know before that is gone. Also, yeah, we were a people of verbal history. That's how we know what happened. You know, you talk to the elderly. These people think all of us elderly people are a joke. They don't even have the need to ask us a question. But that's how it was done in families, and that's how the traditions were passed down. Was you talk to the older people in your family, and they would tell you your family's history, and you would pass it on down to the next generation. And we've gotten so far away from that. I don't know if his name is Jordan Kepler or not, but you asking Kelly. But now you know they have several of them because one of them is European and the other one is Asiatic. So they come on. It's kind of like a channel. If you start looking at these people, it's kind of like a crimes channel, but they be telling you about different police stops and stuff like that. Well, I tell you what, I bet you Kelly gonna know. And please let us know, Kelly. Yeah, but it's some channels. Sometimes I look at it's like it's police stories, and then they have these people that go out and cover those stories. And sometimes I go on a binge looking at him. I can't think of the name of him. I'm not sure if that's him. He's funny and on point. Yeah, it's good to look at different stuff, you know. I tell you, because sometimes this stuff here can be so over and underwhelming at the same time. And you know that's amazing when something is over and underwhelming. But it can happen. She said, no, that's not the same guy, M. So, well, you'll find him for us, Kelly. I don't know, because I just be looking at people. Sometimes I go off into one of those police modes and I'll be looking at that. And then that guy that I want to say the guy's in Florida. I'm not sure if it's Florida or not. Seemed like one of them name was Big Jake or something like that. Or I don't know if this man's name was Big Jake or Big Jack. Something like that. I really can't remember. And if y'all get an opportunity, um, subscribe to my new channel. I haven't gone on there yet, and I don't know when I'm going to go on there, but I am going on there. But right now, I'm just chilling and going back to being me. I really like being me. I don't like being uh, who somebody think that they want me to be. I can't do that. It took me a long time to get to be this woman that I am today. And so I really enjoy her. And I'm glad that you guys do too. It really makes my day. So, on that note, I'm going to get ready to bring myself to a close. And I'll play one or two songs on my way out. Thank you guys for coming by. I love and appreciate it. And we're going to go out the way we came in remembrance of CJ. Drove the hearse Cadillac. A crowd of people gathered round, all dressed in black. And as they removed his body from the car, such pain she never knew has filled her heart. Why, oh why, I heard his mother cry. But oh Lord, it was the beginning of her end. Justice for CJ. In a mother's love, you will find everything's alright. To a mother's love, you are bound. You can rest on sacred ground. You are free to dream, because she sees what you can be. Did you know that mental health is a family affair? It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Well, one child grows up to be somebody that just loves to learn, and another child grows up to be somebody you just love to burn. Mama loves the both of them. You see, it's in the blood. Both kids are good to mom. Blood thicker than the mud. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Oh, a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Nobody wants to blow. Nobody wants to be left out. You can't leave because your heart is there. But you can't stay because you've been somewhere else. You can't cry because you look broke down, but you're crying anyway because you're all broke down. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. It's a family affair. Well, it's a family affair. Hey, hey. You know, sometimes in a relationship, be it male or female, we tend to not want to let go. No matter what's going on in our relationship, we just want to hold on. Sometimes we find ourselves singing this song. And I am telling you, I'm not going. You're the best man I'll ever know. There's no way I can ever go. No, 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 no way. No, 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 no way I'm living without you. I'm not living without you. I don't want to be free. I'm staying, and you're gonna love me. Ooh, 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 love me. You're gonna love me. And I am telling you, I'm not going, even though the rough times are showing. There's just no way, there's no way. We're part of the same place. We're part of the same time. We both share the same blood. We both have the same mind. And time we've had so much to share. No, 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 no. I'm not waking up tomorrow morning, and finding that there's nobody there. Darling, there's no way. No, 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 no way. I'm living without you. I'm not living without you. You see, there's just no way. There's no way. Tear down the mountains, yell, scream, and shout. Like you can say what you want to. I'm not walking out. Stop all the rivers, push, strike, and kill. I'm not going to leave you. There's no way I will. And I am telling you, I'm not going. You're the best man I'll ever know. There's no way I can ever go. No, 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 no way. No, 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 no way. I'm living without you. I'm not living without you. Not living without you. I don't want to be free. I'm staying, and you're gonna love me. You're gonna love me. Yes, you are. Ooh, ooh, love me. Ooh, 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 love me. Love me. Love me. Love me. You're gonna love me. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all.